So the next speaker is, we have two speakers on board now. One is unixnerd, and the second one is maxsyntax. And they both are hacking and security enthusiasts. The topic that they will be covering is how I found your password and other advanced data hoarding techniques. So I'll hand the stage over to unixnerd and maxsyntax.
Hey, what's up, folks? How's everybody doing? How are those hangovers out there? Right on. Let's get this thing going. All right. Well, thanks for coming to our talk. I'm glad the clickbait title drew a big crowd. So. Yep. So introductions. I'm unixnerd.
I'm maxsyntax. And we're from the internet.
Yep, we're from the internet. Research and Destroy is our independent security research group, so we do this stuff for fun. Go ahead.
Right. To start off, we'll just give you our wall of disclaimers. We won't read through. We won't read through each one of them, but we'll leave the one right down the bottom that we are not lawyers. So please consult your own legal counsel for legal advice, not us.
I'll double down on that. We are not lawyers, just to be very clear on that. All right, so our agenda, we're going to have a little discussion about breach data, law and ethics surrounding breach data research, a search engine discussion, and a tool release, which we're really excited to share with you guys. So, anything to add to that? Okay. All right, so our opening statement. Our aim is to dispel misinformation and normalize breach data research for security professionals, addressing the elephant in the room. Anything? Good. All right, so questions. How many of you know what breach data is? By a show of hands. How many of you use breach data in one form or another? All right, yeah, lots of hands out there. So what is it? I'm sure this is a review for most of you, but breach data is any data that was intended to remain private but was leaked through some form of compromise. What does it contain? In short, all sorts of shit.
Database, PII, any sort of personal information.
EPHI,
EPHI, depending on your discipline.
So continued. Just a couple high-profile examples from the media over the last decade or whatever.
Some you may recognize, some you won't.
I was thinking about it the other day that Ashley Madison, I think, what was that, 2016?
Something like that.
Something like that. I mean, we're almost 10 years out from that. If you think about it, that's crazy. And then that Shanghai police database leak was fairly recent. I believe that was this year. Yeah. But anyways, the list of breaches isn't getting any shorter. It keeps going on and on and on. So who uses breach data? In short, everyone. Everybody and their mom uses it. You got anything? Nope. All right. So where does breach data end up once it's been leaked? Breach data doesn't just go away as fast as the news cycle does. It ends up on deep and dark web markets for sale. And the dark web is not just some magical void where stolen things end up. People steal things. Those things are kept safe, usually in the hands of thieves, and sometimes on a paste bin near you. Either way, leaked data ends up in the hands of someone, and they pursue their own interests with it. Here's a few examples. Anything to add to that?
Yep, that's good. Okay.
So eventually, much of this data makes its way onto the capital I internet. Over time, breach data eventually finds its way into the public domain, or is just leaked directly to the public. What was PII becomes OSINT data. So is breach data valuable? Yes. It depends on motive. Or I'm looking at the wrong slide. Yeah. Just keep going.
Is there anything else other than financial gain?
Yeah. So is there any other value to breach it other than financial gain? It depends on motive. There's a few examples. Yep. Why is breach data valuable to security researchers? Because we can use it for adversary simulation, credential reuse, profiling targets, generating realistic password lists, illustrating impact, the pucker effect, like the opposite of goatsy.
Right. So, like, how long is breach data valuable, right? And then leaks themselves are timely, right? And it all depends on, does anybody know if there's even been a breach? Most of the time, it's happened either quietly or, there'll be some sort of event that'll, be a published event that it's happened, right? So, but either way, what's sorry. Either way, what's vulnerable today may not be vulnerable tomorrow, and that's why it's important to kind of stay on top of this stuff. But is old breach data still valuable? Yes, because in general, like, humans are very terrible at security, and that's kind of why we're all here. And some breach data can be too valuable, as you guys may recall. As you guys may recall, the Shadow Brokers leak. How much did they make, if anything?
So on the Bitcoin address for the shadow brokers when they leaked NSA tools, I believe there's somewhere around $4,000 or something in there. Yeah. When they were asking for a significant amount of money, but they realized no one wanted to pay for it, and they'd rather relinquish that risk. Otherwise, they'd probably get Scud missiles,
drone strikes and whatnot. Either way, as breach data ages, eventually it makes its way around to the public internet. And as security professionals, should we use breach data? And yes, right. And breach data itself is beyond low-hanging fruit, right? And just in us not using breach data like on engagements is kind of doing a disservice to our clients.
Breach data is beyond low-hanging fruit. It's literally rotting on the ground all over the fucking place. So we need to take this stuff seriously,
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll speak on laws and ethics, right? So considering the origin of breach data, is it illegal? Is it legal? It is, and it's not. It really depends. It's primarily illegal with misuse, and if you don't have any sort of justification, and it's legal based on intention and proper justification, right? We do this for a living. So, but isn't breach data publicly available? Yeah, it is. But so are a lot of things, right? Like default passwords and key-to-like systems, right? Like the 1284X, the FAOK1, some keys that you guys may recognize. Right, and other personal information, proof of concepts and end-day vulnerabilities, etc. Just and at the end, it's kind of like having a black belt. Like, just because you can kick somebody's ass, should you? It's
be kicking everybody's ass.
Right, exactly, and it all depends on scope and ethics in the end. And so lots of breach of data is for sale as well. Right, we personally don't condone any monetary exchange for acquiring breach data, as not to fund cyber terrorism and such. So adhere to your moral convictions, right? Unless your moral conviction is don't get caught.
We're looking at you, Alphabet Boys.
Yeah. Right. So when should you approach legal, right? And you basically you want to determine a need for using breach data, and consider the risk and impact to yourself primarily, right? Most importantly, in your company, employees, and clients, as well. Whether you need to use it for them or otherwise, and do your own research, right? Because that's what we did, and then we found something very important. Right? Did you guys know that the DOJ actually has public documentation and guidance around legally handling breach data? Right, here's some resources, right? And so here's some brief quotes from the DOJ. If a practitioner does not intend to use information obtained from a form to commit any federal criminal violation. Asking questions or soliciting advice from the form is unlikely to constitute as a crime. And my favorite is it assumes that the practitioners obtain information solely so that it can be used for cybersecurity purposes, right, and defend against cybersecurity threats with no criminal or malicious intent. So feel free to scan the QR code if you guys want a copy of that documentation. They'll also be on our repo.
Yeah, it's not malicious. We swear. You can trust us.
Yeah. Wait a second. Okay. Right. So, going to council. Right. So when you go to council, you want to come up with a plan, and based on what the DOJ kind of specifies and your specific needs for using the data, right? And then consult your executive leadership and your legal team. Draft an official charter document that outlines the specifics in detail, and then resolve any feedback with the legal counsel discussion, and then finalize the initiative, and then hurry up and wait because legal takes forever.
Wait a seriously long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Time is relative, apparently, but eventually everything should balance itself out, and you'll have ponage. So, questions?
Sure. Yes. So how many of you had a legal policy in place before this talk for handling breach data? How about now? Who's gonna turn up a legal policy? Everybody's too shy to raise their hands. But yeah. Well, hopefully you guys take this home and really consider it, because we're all putting ourselves at risk by handling this stuff if we don't have legal protections in place, So, yep. So now I'm going to cast a really big net. Oh, actually, by a show of hands, we forgot that part. Don't count the fingers. Ignore the guy's face down there too. I think it probably smells like armpits. All right, so who uses the internet by a show of hands? Yeah, keep them up. Who uses a search engine? Who used to use Google? Who still uses Google? Right? What about other search engines? What do you guys use? Shout them out. Yep, I knew that one was coming. Yep. Anybody else?
Anything but big. That's a good answer.
I'll take it. But yeah, there are far too many search engines to mention. If you go online, there's quite the list of search engines. But we've come to really love ZerxNG. So ZerxNG is a privacy-focused, self-hosted, hackable meta search engine that supports 138 different search engine services. It's pretty cool, right? But we're hackers. We like root, or we like control, but we love root. We like privacy, but we love anonymity. We like to push things to their limits. But above all, information should be free, right? Free as in freedom, not free as in beer. But we'll take the beer too. So introducing DorksNG. DorksNG is one part custom tool, one part modified ZerxNG Docker container. Multi-threaded search queries are routed over the Tor network with a 10-second circuit refresh rate. The resulting search queries are stored in a SQL database. And we've disabled error timeout features with ZerxNG as well. So these configuration settings allow for evasion of search engine restrictions commonly encountered while issuing many repeated requests, like many. So in closing, before we demo the tool, Please do not use the dorksng client application against any public zerxng instances. Our tooling is not meant for these traditional instances. They don't have the customizations that we have made. And we don't want to piss off that amazing community, basically. So, all right, demo time. How are we doing on time? All right, so the first half of this demo is recorded. So here I'm spinning up 8 container instances of our custom zerxng implementation. Let me speed the video up a little bit. No, not too much. I got it at 2x, but I dial it down. Yep, so you can see as I'm spinning up the containers, they're initializing a connection into Tor, and yep, checking that Tor is connected, checking IP, generating a self-signed certificate, and then spinning up the zerxng instance. So you'll see that the standard out in each container displays a status code. So that's basically just testing the connectivity and that everything's working correctly. All right, chugging along here. So you'll also notice that when I'm spinning up these containers, I'm staggering between initializing each one, because if you try to start too many at a time, you'll start to have Tor connectivity issues, and then things won't work correctly. So I use Arch, by the way. All right, real quick, I'll pause it here. So these are some of the command line functions of the application. I have added a couple, and I'll talk about that later. But all right, so I'm going to issue a single search query. Who knows? Raise your hand if you know what a 1284X is. I got one right here. Anybody? That's Ford's fleet key. Who buys fleets of Ford vehicles?
Rental car companies.
All right, so now I'm going to issue that same search query, but across a list of servers with 4 concurrent requests at a time, up to 64 total pages. With there's a delay timer between requests. I have that disabled. Yep. So this is firing off 4 concurrent requests at a time. But so our zerxng implementation has 7 search engines that accept advanced search engine operators. So for every query you're making, that's times 7. So 4 times 7, what is that, 28? So every time we're issuing one of these requests, that's sending out 28 upstream search requests.
It takes a second.
This is why we speed the video up a little bit. Yeah, so with all those search engines added, things are a little slow sometimes, but you get a whole hell of a lot of data. So I did mention earlier that if you spin up containers too rapidly, you might encounter an error. So there's an example of an error because I spun those containers up too fast. But I have error handling built into the application, so it should hopefully, cross your fingers, right? It should work. The no new results counter is basically saying that after receiving a response and deduping the results, it didn't find anything new, so it decrements a counter. And then once it hits 0, basically, or once it hits 1, I believe, then it stops the query. All right, so we found 377 results. So now I'm going to query the SQL database with this regex string. Remember the 1284X, who buys it, right? So we're looking we're looking at police departments and so on and so forth. So there's all the results that it found. Oop.
Personal database to query from.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So the code's live now, public. Can I scroll? How do I computer? I'd say the most important thing to pay attention to in our those are all the search engines, by the way, that we have enabled. Buy us a beer too, please. But I would say the most important part to read in here is the tips section. It's just a brain dump of a bunch of stuff. But also as a treat for you guys, so we've been using the Google Hacking Database query set to bench test, and we've been iterating over the entire list of Google Hacking Database queries. Our database currently has, as of last night actually, hit over 1 million entries in the database. So that's there for you guys to have fun with. Yep. So Anyways, read the tips. Also check out Dork GPT. We thought that was a pretty cool tool out there. So now we'll just kind of look at what we're doing with it. So here's the current. Let me dial down that the size there. Okay. So yeah. So what I've added is a database limit feature. So one of the things that we figured out through this process is that Python is terrible with deep recursion. Matter of fact, it has a deep recursion limit, which was an unusual thing for me to run into. But so we have that disabled. But Python likes real thick stack frames, and it will literally just consume all the memory on the machine. So what I did to mitigate that is to use a database size limit. So you can set a limit, and once it hits that, it kicks that database off and starts a new one. So we've had this been running since Sunday without any manual interaction. So there's our containers running. Here is the current working the work that's being done iterating over the Google Hacking Database. That bottom pane is a tool called Glances. It's sort of like HTOP, but the cool thing is it has a readout for the stats of containers. So thought that was cool. So here you can see I'm merging all of the separate databases that we have. And you can see at the bottom, we've got over 1 million entries. And I'll just show you guys querying the database. So I'm doing a regex here, searching for SQL databases. So 10,000 entries, just sitting out there. So, all right, you ready?
Right. So lessons learned, right? Policy sucks, but somebody's got to do it, right? And your intention matters, right? At the end, and international law is not U.S. law. Right? So what you can do here, apparently, you also cannot do elsewhere because of reasons. And shit can still happen at the end of the day. It's about having legal safeguards in place for yourself and company and your cohorts as well. You should, you can still get a knock at your door and eventually have to prove your intent. Right, and above all, practice good OPSEC and stay within your ethical guidelines written into your policy. So in the event that you do get your door kicked in, you just say, hey, wait, I got this thing. And it should be okay. Talk to my legal team and my lawyer, not me. So in conclusion, we guys like our research, and here's some examples. You can go ahead and scan those to jump on the repo. I'll give everybody a second.
Problem is our QR codes don't bite.
Okay. Right, and so if you guys want to chat, this is pretty much at the end, so we'll be down at the bar.
Yeah, so after this is lunch break, so if you guys want to chat, we'll be at the bar downstairs. We might show you some cool stuff.
So shout outs. In closing, we'd like to shout outs to SearchNG and Tor for making this possible. Please donate to them both. Right? Shout out to our mentors. We love you all. You know who you are. Right? And
shout out to IP. Fucking hack the planet.
There you go. Peace. Thanks, guys.